Alrighty. So I've never, as far as I can think, reacted to a standalone Gothix video. Pretty certain I've reacted to a video that contained her, like, once before. But it might have been the one with, like, her and Blair White. But an actual standalone one I haven't. And this video is rather long, so we're going to be looking at a handful of her reactions, because they are to individual TikToks, which should compartmentalize things at least a little bit for us. Before we get into that, though, as always, we do have to get into the fan art section. So let's go ahead and get into that. This first one is from Rox Sionis. Said, so was watching some of your vids, and I know you spoke about Evangelion, so I made an EVA pilot Suris and an EVA unit. Oh, whoa. Also, to say my last part of my name, I think Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. Hope you like it. I still do not. I've only ever known that villain by the name Black Mask, not his actual like person name. So if I say it incorrectly, I'm saying it incorrectly, and I am sorry. I guess I just say that this Eva suit also like reminds me of a Chozo suit. Just very slightly. The next one we have is from the same artist, but both of these they go hand in hand with one another. This is actually the EVA unit Owo with a hammer, of course. I'm here to fight every single angel that comes, and I mean, eventually when humanity turns into orange splooge, I will remain as a testament that we once existed. No, that's how she says it. You good? Oh, okay, fair enough. The next one we have is from Ivana Dragmeyer. Said, ultimate bonk work in progress. That is amazing. This almost looks like a... So without the color, it looks almost like a Robin Hood outfit. And that is wonderful. The last one we have is from Kitterdoodle. Said, because it was mentioned in stream, the zombie Suris, they made me speak the war word. This gives me the vibes of like in Batman Dark Knight Returns when Superman has to catch the nuke and throw it into the sun. And he just gets like, he gets obliterated by it and falls onto Earth and has to slowly like eke his way onto the onto a sandbar. This gives me those vibes. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future episode, the best way to do so is to put it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, Head of the Otter has redeemed an owl. Owl. For those who don't know, there is a, before we get into the Gothix video, if you have not checked out the Neko Suris channel, by the time this goes up on YouTube, this video will have gone up on Neko Suris. And if you want context for what in the ball sacks this is, then you'll have to head over to that channel and subscribe. If you don't, feck you. And gave him the context that Rouge is dead. Context does not help that image. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to this.
For today's video, I'll be scrolling through the Libs of TikTok account, which is a page on Twitter that archives the most woke videos that are on the internet. And for today, I'm going to be looking for...
Okay, so here's where I have to ask, like, what is woke? Ziggy Diggy, thank you for redeeming... not redeeming. I'm stupid. Alt-Fact, thank you for redeeming your points for an... You fucking monster. Also, Ziggy, thank you for the 1000-bit cheer. So when you say, like, the most woke videos, most of the time, I don't know what that actually means, and the definition that people like Ben give don't seem to accurately describe people who would even describe themselves as woke. But sure, let's go ahead and go with it.
Gender identity videos specifically, because I think that gender identity is one of the most corrosive ideologies to pop up these last couple of years. I know that it's a political Trojan horse, but obviously people that believe they're non-binary or both sexes or neither aren't going to understand that. And
how is it a political Trojan horse? Wait, hold on. Now I'm confused. So Gender identity. You, Gothix, you are a girl, right? And you identify as a girl? So that's a political Trojan horse now. It has to be. Because you know that gender identity, like, it applies to cis people too. They identify as the gender they were assigned at birth. But okay. Past that, yeah, no, NB, people who are NB, like, if they just don't identify either way, then they don't identify either way. Like, how is it a politically corrosive ideology when it's literally somebody going, I feel this way? Like, oh no, it corrupts politics. Somebody said, I don't feel like X. Oh boy.
That's totally okay. Don't worry, I'm here to help you. But I think that it is so corrosive for a couple of reasons. Number one, it preys on people that seek outside validation, people that yearn to be a part of something and want that that sense of community, or they want the love. And this is why you'll see a lot of younger people adopt to these ideas, because young people are very impressionable. They have brains that you can literally mold them into whoever you want them to be.
So, to an extent, I actually agree with Gothix. I do. Because when I was younger, I was affected by the content I consumed to the extent that I would literally just regurgitate whatever opinion I had recently heard on YouTube as if it was mine, because it sounded better than the way I could articulate myself. Also, yes, people do tend to flock to, like, on the whole, people tend to flock to groups. People tend to flock to communities. This is the reason why, despite the fact that people try to say there's no such thing as an atheist community, because there's nothing that binds atheists together besides the fact that we just believe God not real, we still end up finding ourselves in communities of atheists on the internet because we're human, and that's the thing we crave. So, as always, I will agree where I agree. My goal is to not just sit here and be a contrarian. My goal is to go, here is how I legitimately feel about the things being said.
Which is why it's a big issue that gender identity is being taught in schools right now. And the other reason that I think it's corrosive is because it preys on people that in some ways are mentally unstable. And I'm not saying that to upset anyone, but when you look at some of these videos and you actually hear what these people are saying, you can sense that there's some type of underlying issue that's going on psychologically. And the problem with gender identity is it doesn't address what's actually going on up here, and instead just puts a band-aid over it, in the sense that the validation and confirming their identity or their pronouns is actually going to help. And if it actually did help, we wouldn't be seeing detransitioners. We wouldn't be seeing people speaking out about the fact that there was no pushback when they went to their doctor and said, I think I'm the opposite sex, give me hormones.
Okay, hold on. I gotta call bullshit on this one. So, the percentage of trans people that actually detransition is about, what, 1 to 3%? It's a very small amount. It's actually about the percent of people that we expect to end up being gay or lesbian, or basically the amount of people that you expect to exist as the minority in a large group, the subgroup within a large group, is the amount of people that you find being detransitioners. Now, what is a detransitioner? Detransitioner is just somebody who, when they transitioned, began either just on the social level or going full on into becoming like they had surgeries and everything else, or if they just stopped at HRT. It doesn't matter. A detransitioner is somebody who stopped at some point on that road and reverted, went back. Now, this can happen for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is, unfortunately, family and job pressure. It is not easy being trans. It's not a thing that I have personal experience with because I'm cis as hell, but it is a thing that I have had conversations with friends of mine who are trans about. It is not easy for society as it currently exists to operate with trans people. I mean, hell, they were banned from the military just last presidential term. So, a lot of times, people who detransition, not all the time, some people do detransition completely validly, but a lot of times they detransition almost because of convenience. It is expensive to undergo surgeries. Their dysphoria is not being fixed because there is more going on underneath the surface. Or, the biggest one, their job will try to fire them if they continue because they live in a conservative or rural state, or their parents might disown them if they continue. There's a lot of reasons for it. Now, this is, again, not all people who detransition. There are a handful of people who do detransition because instead of going, oh shit, I don't think I'm trans because my job says that I'll lose it if I continue on this path. They go, oh shit, I think I've confused body dysphoria with gender dysphoria with body dysmorphia. Things like that can happen, where the disgust they feel or the uncomfortableness they feel while looking in the mirror has to do with a different underlying cause. But again, this is between 1% to 3% of people who actually undergo transition. This is the expected subgroup, and we don't know what the actual final numbers are because we would need to have a very trans-inclusive society first to actually have those numbers. But none of that matters to Gothix. All that matters is saying that, well, if trans were real, then why detrans exist? When you boil these things down to such fundamental, basic concepts, you lose the nuance of the conversation. You lose the humanity of the conversation. You start talking about people only insofar as they exist in large groups and not individual people's actual lived experiences.
It's a good idea to highlight these videos, and then maybe I can provide a rebuttal for whatever it is that they're saying. Because here's the thing, on TikTok, it's a giant cesspool of people that think that they're educators or experts on these topics. But if you actually just pay attention, it's a bunch of people parroting the same propaganda talking points, and that is very unfortunate. And you know, the politicians, people in Hollywood, corporate media, academia, of course, they're going to agree with gender identity because they're activists. They're all focused on one centralized goal, and unfortunately they have to.
Every politician, every person in Hollywood, all of them, they all only believe one thing, and they are all activists for that only one thing. See, this is what happens when you boil ideas down to their absolute most basic instead of accepting the nuances in the conversation. All you get is hasty generalizations. Also, this is a lovely appeal to conspiracy. Don't worry, the thing you believe is very true because everybody in every position of power, everywhere in the entire world, they are against you. But you, viewer, you are correct, and only you. But okay.
To use people that are part of the LGBT community or people that are prone to believing these ideas as political puppets. But don't worry, guys, I'm here to help you, and we're going to get right into this. So let me go on this page right here, and let's start scrolling. All right, so, okay, here's a good one. Something about wedding. All right. So let's see what they have to say.
So you or someone you love is non-binary and getting married, and maybe you're asking yourself, like, what's a gender-neutral version for bride or groom? There are a few different answers to this, and anytime I talk about this, it's controversial. For context, I'm a queer non-binary wedding photographer, so I spend a lot of time at weddings. The oldest and maybe most popular terms, gender-neutral terms for bride and groom, are bride and groom, just like mixing up the spelling of two words. But the thing about that is that it often just like takes non-binary people and then like puts them into a new binary, where groom is often used as like a masculine bride, and bride is often used as like a feminine groom.
This is so complicated. Why are you overcomplicating this? Hi, my name is Vanessa. I am a straight Cape Verdean Puerto Rican female, 5'7". Why do I need to know this information? When you say that you're queer and non-binary.
Wait, hold on. But they are responding to somebody who asked the question, hey, is there a gender neutral term for a bride or groom? There's nothing confusing about that. They were like, hey, is there a gender neutral term for this? What's confusing about that? Hey, what's a gender neutral term for this thing? Oh, okay, well, there's this things, but there is this problem with those things. So here, let's go ahead and get to a different example. Let's maybe let's say, and this is probably only going to appeal to people who play the games that I play, but let me maybe have this exact conversation, but about, say, Magic the Gathering. If somebody said, what is the best deck in Magic the Gathering? I would sit there and go, well, one of the best decks recently was Hammer Time. But because of the banning of Luris, Hammer Time is no longer one of the best decks because it has lost its ability to engage in staying power. So we actually have Grixis Delver as a pretty strong deck. Any deck that can really utilize Ragavan is a strong deck. We've also got Azorius Control, if you have the money to put into that, or Hardened Scales, if you've got the fund for that as well. But if you don't have those, then there is always Enchantress Control, which you can fall back on if you've only got a couple $100 to spend. That's a deck that will work really well for that amount of money. There are also Jund variants that will work very well for that amount of money, as long as you're not spending money on, say, Tarmogoyfs or Liliana the Veils. Boy, howdy, that sounded fucking confusing if you didn't know what Magic was, wouldn't it? If this sounds confusing to you, maybe it's because the person asking, hey, what's a gender-neutral term for this, has already been engaged in this conversation for just a little bit. So I know some of those words. So no, there's an Enchantress deck in Modern right now. Yes, Stone Corbel. There we go. Boom. Or if you don't have money, go Mono Green Stompy. True, the Evolve package for Mono Green Stompy still works surprisingly well. I know some of those words. Everyone knows what a Brahmin group is, though. Everyone knows what gender neutral means, though. Actually, Salem, not everybody knows what gender neutral means. Where I live in Georgia, if you use the term gender neutral, a lot of people have to be a certain level of drunk before they're willing to engage in that conversation with anything other than a knee jerk. They don't actually know what that term means sometimes. But if somebody's asking, what is a gender neutral term between these two things? They're already engaged in the conversation. They're already here. Now, if I'm talking to a Magic player, the conversation I just had right there is perfectly parsable, as evidenced by the Magic players in my chat responding to the things I said. What about the term unisex? For my entire life, I'd always seen it around unisex socks, etc. They will usually they'll usually know that one.
Okay, what does that mean to me? Why do I care? And even when you explain it...
But wait, are you non-binary? Do you care about gender-neutral terms? That would be why you don't care. If you are just a cis woman, then you're perfectly comfortable with the term bride. Why do you need a different term? But the audience here, they are looking for that term.
What am I supposed to do with that information?
If your parents don't love and accept you for who you are...
Wait, you didn't play the... You didn't play the last part of their video? Oh, well, cool. I wasn't planning on playing the last part of your video either. But the part where they actually landed on the gender neutral term, the one between the two, you just skipped that? Why? Yeah, I was interested in that one too. Why did we just skip that? God, fuck, you're gonna make me actually Google this shit. I didn't have to Google this shit before. Gender neutral term for bride / groom. Marrier. Partners or marriers. Okay. Cool. A marrier. Marrier or celebrant. Okay, cool. Boom. I do not like saying that word, but okay. Neat. I prefer bride and groom. But you made me Google that shit because you refused to play 5 more seconds of a video.
Christmas. Fuck that. I'm your parents now. I'm proud of you. Drink some water. I love you. Bye.
No comment. Apparently.
Why no comment? I've seen enough streamers who go just like, haha, I'm your parent now. Take care of yourself. It's just an internet thing. Betrothed also works. Yeah, there you go. Betrothed works.
A school were treated to a drag queen performance. Get out of here. Imagine if they focused on teaching math, science, and history. There is a high...
Wait. Do you know if we're just talking about history, we might actually be talking about history of drag? You're aware of that, right? Okay, maybe... I'm gonna get right down. I'm gonna get right down to it. Maybe everybody who is so obsessed with, why are they teaching math, science, history? First of all, you hated those subjects. Shut the fuck up. You, hypothetical person who is screaming about that. I guarantee you hated those subjects. I fucking guarantee it. Secondly, let me go ahead and talk about my experience at Brown Barge Middle School. We didn't have history class. We didn't have science class. We didn't have that shit. You know what we had? We had what was called streams. The school year was divided into trimesters, and each trimester we would have a stream, and it was basically the same as selecting an elective course. So let me give an example. We had the stream for flight. I ended up choosing flight class because I wanted to make airplanes. I thought it was cool. So you'd have your flight stream. Instead of a history class, you would learn about the Wright brothers, and then you would try to apply the principles that they had learned in actual mechanics. We had to have a math class because Florida standards required it, but supplementing that, we also had an engineering class where we would make planes out of balsa wood, and we would try to build them and get them to fly. And if they could fly, then we would actually get good grades. And if they couldn't fly, then we would fail the course. The course actually, the penultimate thing in the course was we had to make from scratch a hot air balloon, and it had to stay in the air for as long as possible. And a contest was held between every single student with these hot air balloons. And through it, we learned the principles of flight. We learned several principles in science. We learned the history of everybody who was involved in aeronautics. We got to learn all of the physical things that you would have learned in any one of those schools. But it was, oh my God, I hate this music. I actually hate it. Fuck it. Goodbye. I'm sure there's a Sonic fan who likes it, but that Sonic fan isn't me. But we learned functionally all of those things. We got to have those experiences without having those classes. There are other ways that you can do it. Likewise, watching something like a drag concert, especially one that is not super sexualized for the kids, can be part of a social studies course where you are learning about different cultures and different people. There's more to school than STEM, and there's more ways of having STEM courses than just having courses that are named those fucking things. I'm sorry, this stuff just pisses me off, because as somebody who went to an accelerated school where I learned very differently, and it felt almost like whiplash when I went from a private school into that school, there are different ways to teach kids, and it's okay to engage in those different ways. I mean, hell, I didn't end up getting robotics when I wanted it, so I had to take art, but I ended up enjoying that because I got to learn about historical painters like Mark Rothko, who I ended up just doing all kinds of projects on and shit, who I wouldn't have experienced had I just had a regular history class with a more broad appeal. And this could also be part of a performative arts class. There's a lot, like, you can learn things in school besides 2 + 2 is 4, Washington crossed the Delaware once, I guess.
Literacy rate in this country. There's a lot of kids that don't know how to read, don't know how to write, don't know how to do basic math. Oh, but you can talk to them about gender and sexuality. Yes, because that's going to help them.
Okay, so actually most kids in the United States can do all of those things. The literacy rate going down isn't because we are showing, like, shit like this. I'm sorry, Gothix. You're engaging in a post hoc ergo proctor hoc fallacy. Maybe you should actually talk to people who are actually in education to see what is causing those rates to decline. A lot of it comes down to the fact that most funding for schools is based on local taxes. It's based on housing taxes. As a result, you will have substandard education where teachers are having to pack more students into a single room because there's not enough money to renovate the school and expand it out, and there's not enough money to afford more teachers to spread the students out thinner. There's way more to the literacy rates in the United States than just, they showed drag once and the world is over.
Them actually survive in the real world when they become an adult. Hello? Drag shows are a form of adult entertainment, but you're having it in a high school. Okay, tell me more about how they're not trying to sexualize kids. Explain to me that.
Okay, so wait, did you actually see the content of the drag show? Did you see anything like overtly sexual there? Like, sure, she was dressed in something, or they were dressed in something. I don't know the gender of the person that was performing, but they were dressed in something that could easily have been seen as like a pseudo risque prom dress, maybe. But, like, in what way was what we saw there, and if there's more to it, then that's on you to show, in what way was that super adult entertainment?
Call me they, them, and just call me they, them with the same effort you call a woman she, her, and a man he, him. This isn't something you get to yes about. Because if you don't call me by my preferred pronouns, then it's just discrimination. So you can be discriminatory or you can do the bare minimum. So celebrating doing the bare minimum is fucking shitty. Do you know how it feels to be treated like somebody else's prize? Like if they show you basic human decency, it makes them feel better about themselves?
I'm not going to continue with this because this is nonsense. Okay, imagine crying about pronouns when there are people in other countries that are dying, getting stoned to death.
Oh my fucking god. Really? That's the that's the one. All right, guys, if you have any personal problems whatsoever, none of them matter because we can engage in whataboutism. We can engage in deflection. You're literally just whatabouting the entire thing away. Okay, I'm gonna say something that sounds cruel. I don't fucking care about somebody starving in another country whom I will never meet if I am currently suffering myself and I can do nothing to affect that. Their suffering does not randomly, arbitrarily negate mine. No one's suffering negates anyone else's. If somebody in this chat is dealing with something terrible, it doesn't negate something that I'm going through. If you are about to deal with an eviction and somebody's like, I mean, I've been homeless for 15 years. Cool, good for you. Did that magically erase the eviction papers? Did it do that? No. So why fucking bring it up? It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with what somebody else is dealing with. What you instead could have said is, hey, I understand that this is an issue for you, but generally, in conversation, a lot of people are still in the process of learning. They're still in the process of learning to use gender-neutral language for people who prefer gender-neutral language. And to tell them that, yeah, they can't celebrate what you call the bare minimum, but to them is a big step. You could have done that. You could have done that. You could have pointed out that this is a person that is minimizing somebody else's efforts to make them more comfortable. And instead, you went for the bare minimum. You went for the most bog standard response you could have. And there are people in your comment section who are going to be praising this. Shadow Wolf, thank you for redeeming your points, friend. You fucking monster.
Because of their sexuality, people aren't able to put food on the table. There are people that are currently doing forced labor. Imagine having the privilege in America. Everyone in America is privileged, white or black. But imagine having that privilege to...
God, can you imagine almost stepping into the privilege conversation, almost having to accept the fact that merely by being born in different circumstances, you can have different privilege? Can you imagine making that admission and then immediately having to walk it back? I'll tell you a Axolotl with Cream, thank you for the hydrate. But I'll tell you an experience that I had with a former friend of mine who I've lost contact with. But I mentioned that, you know, white privilege is a thing. And he said, no, it's not. It's always majority privilege. Whoever has the majority in a particular country, they are usually the privileged ones. Has nothing to do with white. And I went, okay, cool. I accept that. Now, what is the racial majority in the United States? You opened that can of worms. Here we are. Shadow Wolf, thank you very much for redeeming your points, friend. Oh, well. Says, just your headphones, or does it cut out whenever he says, I don't know why it's cutting out.
You complain in your vehicle, on your smartphone, on TikTok. A lot of countries don't have access to internet.
Who cares? This is whataboutism. Has nothing to do with the argument. You are engaging in deflection instead of engaging with the argument. Congratulations.
About the fact that people aren't using your preferred pronouns. What the hell is this? Pin the clit. What? Gross. Pin the clit on the labia, an activity today on the UCF campus organized by Young Democratic Socialists of America. That's disgusting.
Okay, so why is your vagina disgusting? Gothix, could you please explain to me why your vagina is disgusting? I would need more words to explain this. Now, you can say that this is a weird campaign. I mean, I think it's a little cringy. The entire joke seems to be that people can't find the clit. I think that's funny as hell. But honestly, who cares? How is this something to freak out about? Oh my god! A vagina! I have one of those! Really? Okay.
That is so gross. Nice fruit snacks. Yuck.
You got so close to the point and then ran away from it as soon as my boyfriend tried to explain it to you.
Okay, so let me just read this comment really quick. And this is on TikTok. You can respond to people's comments through video. So the comment says, probably because it comes more naturally to them. Like if I saw someone who looked like a woman, but uses he, him pronouns, I would have to make a blank. I don't know what it is, but let's continue.
So I'll try and explain more now, I guess. The point is we want people to put in the emotional effort to see us as we actually are. Because what you've described is a situation where...
Ma'am, I'm assuming. Again, see, this is the thing. As I keep saying, I'm assuming that this person is a she. The majority of people on this planet are visual. So when they see someone that looks like a guy or they see someone that looks like a girl, they're going to refer to them as such. Now, I am...
Again, this is where I have to agree with Gothix. Generally speaking, people will use the phenotypical expression that somebody has as their fallback. That will be their fallback on everything. There is an argument to be made that we should be using gender-neutral language as a default, so as to untrain people from those fallbacks. But it is a statement of fact that in most circumstances, people do fall back onto phenotype. And yes, Kira Sakura, the point is that is what people are taught. Just that.
Someone that I don't believe in transitioning. I never have. Gender dysphoria or not, I think that it would be more beneficial for the person to learn to accept who they are. And this is the problem that I'm hearing in this video, where in a lot of these cases, they say, we just want to be accepted for who we are. You can't say that, but then also claim that you are a different gender than what you were actually born as, or you try to transition.
Wait, yes, you can, though. Okay, hold on. Parakeet point, thank you for the follow. I'm gonna take this argument, and I'm just gonna turn it on its head for a second. You can't tell somebody to accept you for who you are if who you are is a Republican. You were born as a Democrat. You can't change that. Or I could just accept you as a Republican or a Democrat and engage you there. I may or may not agree with your position as a Republican or Democrat, but I can accept that you are that thing and then engage you from that moment. When Gothix says, I don't agree in transitioning. Cool. Who cares? Are you a scientist? Do you study gender? Do you perform surgeries? Are you at any point involved in the process of transitioning for anyone? And, why? Why does it matter? Also, if you have to, let's say you have to accept somebody because they have no arms. Their arms got chopped off in something, or they got crushed, or they are otherwise unusable, and then they are given somebody else's arms. You've had to accept them as an armless person for, what, 5-6 years? And then a donation was made, and now they can use someone else's arms. You have to accept them as an individual who has arms now. They're still the same person. You can accept that people change. Gothix, your issue is you want to fit people into convenient little boxes, and the minute somebody steps out of that box, it makes you uncomfortable. Or rather, it makes your audience uncomfortable, and therefore you can freak out about it because you know that your audience will be uncomfortable, and they pay your bills.
If you were wanting people to accept you for who you are, you wouldn't be creating these other identities. And this is what I'm saying is like...
They aren't creating other identities. It's just their identity. Hey, you knew me for 10 years as this person. I am this person now. I have changed. Okay, cool. You can accept them there. Let's say you've got somebody who, when they were 15, they were really abusive to you, but they're 25 now and they've learned a lot of life lessons and they have changed. They have gone through their positive change arc. They used to be the villain and now they are a secondary protagonist in a shonen anime. Are you really going to say that, well, why are you changing all these identities for yourself? People change, Gothix. It's part of being human. Maybe you forgot.
Like, the underlying problem of what's going on internally isn't getting addressed. There is no guarantee.
The underlying problem of what's happening internally is getting addressed, actually. The #1 supported scientifically procedure when somebody is dealing with, say, gender dysphoria, is to allow them to transition, to allow them to at least try to transition. That is addressing that. If the issue is dysphoria, then addressing it is transitioning, Gothix. Like, that is addressing it. That is definitionally what that is.
Guarantee that chopping up your body or taking injections is going to actually fix anything. It might redirect whatever.
Oh my God, you just made an argument against every surgery ever. You just made an argument against every person who has ever engaged in surgery ever. Well, you know what? Chopping out my appendix didn't solve the problem of my stomach pain, but it certainly stopped me from dying from it. This argument can be used against all surgeries, and it's equally bad for all of them.
Internal struggle you're dealing with, but I don't think it's going to get rid of it, especially for a lot of people, because if that were the case, we wouldn't have detransitioners.
No, you don't. No, you don't get to do that stupid fucking look at the camera for that. Gothix. If a handful of people detransition, and mind you, it is a handful, just like there are only a handful of people in the United States who are trans. They are a very small portion of the United States, just like detransitioners are a very small portion of that very small portion. They are literally a fraction of a fraction. Detransitioners existing does not mean that trans people do not exist. I need to make that video at some point, the thinking in binaries video, because this is the problem. This is the big underlying problem we run into. People think in binaries all the time. They literally, and I don't understand why. I know why this is the case, because it's easier. There's less nuance. There's less thought involved. When you can easily compartmentalize a thought into a box and go, well, actually, you fit into this neat box, or you fit into this neat box. The idea that somebody can stick a leg in both boxes never occurs to you. But that is, in fact, the case here. Is it a higher percentage than a lot of people expect? I mean, that doesn't change the argument, though. Black and white thinking, yeah, it is binary thinking. Things exist in either the 0 column or the 1 column. They ignore the fact that when you mix those two columns up, you can get a breadth of different numbers. Think about it. A computer thinks in binary and yet can produce infinite results.
The point is we want people to put in the emotional effort to see us as we actually are. Because what you've described is a situation where somebody is memorizing pronouns rather than actually trying to see the person in a new light with a new information. I don't want you to see me as a woman and then remember to use he, him pronouns. I want you to see me as a dude, you know?
But that's not going to happen.
Yes, it does. It happens all the time, Gothix. There are people who see trans... Okay, look. I don't want to name names, because that would not be fair to the people that I'm going to name names to. But the friends of mine who are trans, I see them as their gender. It's... To say that people aren't going to do that, they are. They do. All the time.
Like I described in this last...
Okay. Correction. It could happen. For example, Blair White. To me, Blair looks like a chick. And if I didn't know they were trans, I would think that they were a chick. Same with Buck Angel. They look like a dude.
Okay. And what, the minute you find out they're trans, you stop calling them that? Is that what happens?
But Buck was born a female. This person looks like a girl. So yeah, it's unrealistic.
It's a situation like I described in this last video.
Do they look like a girl?
I see it as...
Hold on. No. Oh, wait a minute, Salem! Oh my god, I didn't even catch that! Gothix literally used they. Double irony. The person isn't using pronouns for Blair or Buck. I didn't get that. So yeah, no. Okay, so Gothix, your point here is that if somebody doesn't pass, they're automatically invalid, which is stupid. Secondly, I could not tell you if this person was just a, somewhat feminine dude or a somewhat masculine female. I would have no way of knowing. What you're trying to do is clock someone. I can't in this particular scenario. But if you can, sure, you've got a perfect transdar, I guess. Whatever.
is you seeing them as a cis person and just taking the any pronouns as a cop-out to any of the emotional work.
No.
The point is empathy and
No. This person is demanding emotional investment into something that someone else isn't emotionally invested in. That's ridiculous.
So, yes and no. This is where I have to be a little neutral on this one. On the one hand, yes, you are asking somebody for emotional investment in something that they don't care in. On the other hand, what is the actual problem with asking somebody to care? If I said my mom died and someone's immediate response was, okay, why do I care? I don't know how to respond to that. Maybe I'm asking for a little bit of empathy. Maybe I'm asking you to care for just a little bit, even temporarily. Which, oh, by the way, was what was said in the last 2 seconds of that video. Asking people for empathy is fine. The world that people like Gothix want to create is one where everybody is equally ambivalent towards one another and equally cruel. I reject that world, personally. Mockingburns, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Owl.
When I was a baby, the doctors told my parents I was a girl. And so my parents gave me a name that girls typically have and bought me clothes that girls typically wear. And until I was 18 years old, everyone thought I was a girl. And this was super, super uncomfortable for me because I knew that wasn't right. The way I like to describe it is like wearing a super itchy sweater. The longer you wear it, the itchier it gets. And the only way to make...
Do you see her doing it? Sorry for the spaghetti, but do you see what she's doing through it? Here, maybe you'll catch it this time. Watch her head. You can see the gears turning where she's trying to find the points where she's going to say no to.
The way I like to describe it is like wearing a super itchy sweater. The longer you wear it, the itchier it gets. And the only way to make the itching stop is to have everyone see it and know the...
Alpha Mario, dear fucking God, of course. I'm going to turn that redeem off. I swear to shit. I swear to fuck. Alpha Mario X, you decided... I've become so numb to this throughout the course of everything because so many of these get dropped now. Jesus Christ. But you know what? Fine. You did it. You dropped 50,001 channel points. You earned it. Fuck you. Oh, woo. Oh, woo. There. I hope you're happy, you unrepentant monster.
The person that you really are. So when I was 18, I told my family and my friends that I'm really a boy, and it was like this huge weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, and I had the freedom to be who I truly am. And
See, here we go again. You had the freedom to be who you truly am. No, if you were actually living as you truly are, you wouldn't be transitioning.
But they would be, and they did. They were not comfortable nor happy living as a female. They are now, as an adult, comfortable and happy living as a male. That is who they are. A gender was assigned to them. A name was assigned to them. A set of practices was assigned to them that they were not comfortable with. Gothix, what you are doing is you are telling people not what you think you are, because what you think you're telling them is nuh-uh, facts, logic, ontology, you have vagina, you go in this box. What you're really doing is you are telling people who they are. You are acting as if you are the arbiter of their lives. And then when they do not conform, to that set of standards you have thrown up, then you go, no, you're not living as you truly are. Because I, Gothix, am the true arbiter of your thoughts and feelings. Who you are, your identity, your thoughts, all of that is something that only I, Gothix, can truly know. You see, Gothix wants to believe herself to be the person who gets to be on the chair. You know, in DC, I can't remember the name of it, but in DC Comics, the chair of all knowledge, the one that Batman sat on and learned that there were 3 different Jokers. I don't know why I can't remember the name of the chair for right now. Somebody in chat will remember it. But you believe Metron's chair? Okay. Like, you believe you sit in that chair. You are the logic bro, the rebutter of all bad ideas, the creator of logic. but you're not. Other people's lived experiences did not match up to you or yours. And they don't have to. We're going to see what the last part of her response to this video is, and then that'll be it for this one, because this is taking a very long time, but we'll see.
No, this experience is super challenging sometimes. It may be the person I am, and I'm super proud to be transgender.
Okay, that's fine. As long as you're happy. As long as I can't even.
Wait, hold on. Is it as long as you're happy, or is it no, you am girl? Which is it? Which is it?
And say that honestly. I've reframed the way that I think about a lot of these things. As long as you're happy, I mean, drug addicts are happy when they're actually taking drugs.
Ah, okay. And there's the backpedal. There's the backpedal. You could see for a moment. You could see for a half second. Just a half second. Her humanity showed through for just a little bit. There was a microcosm of a moment where she was a person. And then she turned back to the grifting conservative React bot. But there was a microsecond. There was a moment where we got something different. What? That is an alarm.
People chopping up their bodies in some instances think that they're happy until...
Again, people chopping up their bodies. This verbiage is used all the time. You mean people having surgery, having corrective surgery. I have had corrective surgery. I had an appendix removed. I had a sand spur taken out of my foot. These are things that happen. I have had surgery. You can't just say people chopping up their bodies, people chopping up their bodies, people chopping up their bodies. When you do that, you are taking a nuanced position and you are boiling it down to its absolute most basic. Surgery in general is people chopping up their bodies. Congratulations. You are arguing against the concept of surgery.
Well, 2 years down the line, they realize they've made a mistake.
So wait, 2 years down the line, did this person realize they made a mistake? Or are they comfortable living in their body? Again, detransitioners only account for a very small percentage of people who call themselves trans. But I can see what's going on here. Gothix, I know exactly what's going on here, actually. And this is very, very agitating. But there's a thing I used to do. I would have a series of rebuttals to things memorized. These were my gotchas. These were my and I'm right. The idea is that if you're not in an actual debate with somebody, if you're not in a one-on-one conversation where they can follow up on something, you can fall back on these easy ideas. You start wondering, well, maybe trans people are right. You go, wait, no, they're detransitioners. If trans people were right, there wouldn't be detransitioners. If there are people who stop being racists, there cannot be racists. Same concept, Gothix. The exact same thing. Some people learn to not be racist. Therefore, racists don't exist. I'm sorry. You can't just boil these things down like that. It doesn't help. But what she's doing is she is finding that one thing, that one rebuttal, that thought-terminating cliche, and she is holding on to it. She's handing that actual rebuttal to her audience so that they can use it. Also, Abby, my dudes, thank you for redeeming your points for an hara, you fucking monster. By having access to these easy rebuttals that don't require any thought, these thought-terminating cliches, her audience gets to feel validated when they agree with them. What they don't get is to actually be challenged with the actual conversation tree that happens afterwards. There's an entire Mass Effect dialogue tree that happens after the but detransitioners exist. But Gothix isn't going to engage with that, at least not here. That doesn't seem to be a thing she's going to do.
When babies are born, the doctor looks at them and they make a guess about whether the baby is...
No. They don't make a guess. There is...
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, it's an educated guess. It's an educated guess. Don't get me wrong. It is more likely somebody with a penis will identify as male. It is more likely somebody with a vagina is going to identify as female. It is more likely that somebody is going to be one or the other. But it is a guess. It is an educated guess. It is based on thousands of years of data. But it is a guess. And that is all it is. If I'm playing a game of Magic and I know every card in my opponent's deck, they have not used a lightning bolt on me, I am about to swing a Ragavan into them for a game. They have not yet used a card, but the last card they played was, I don't know, Consider. And they opted to keep the card they got, and they have 1 red mana open. If there's only 30 cards left in their deck and they haven't played their Lightning Bolt, that last card that they chose to keep instead of digging down is likely a Lightning Bolt. It is likely the card that will stop Ragavan from hitting them in the face and winning the game. But there are some games where it wasn't a Lightning Bolt. There are some games where they kept that card because they thought it would help. But it wasn't a Lightning Bolt. My guess, and it was a good damn guess, was that it was a Lightning Bolt. There it is at deck. They've only got 4 of them in. Of course they were going to. But then they hit me with an Unholy Heat instead. That was close enough. But that's the exact same thing as somebody realizing they're non-binary. The more likely option was they were male or female, but guess what? Sometimes that doesn't end up being the case. It doesn't. And it doesn't have to be. Because at the end of the day, it is a guess. You are likely correct, but it is still a guess. It is not knowledge. It is a guess.
Huh, excuse me. There is a big identifier as to how to determine if a baby is a male or a female, and you know what it is. They don't guess.
Boy or girl, based on what they look like. And most of the time, that guess is 100% correct. There are no issues whatsoever.
The person even acknowledges it. The person Gothix is responding to even acknowledges that. I haven't watched ahead on this video. I didn't know they were going to say that. Yes, 99% of the time they are correct, but it is still a guess.
But sometimes the doctor is wrong. The doctor makes an incorrect guess.
It's not a guess.
Yes, it is. If you do not know, but you have a 99.99999% chance that you are correct, but you don't know, it is still definitionally a guess.
These doctors that you're talking about that are affirming these gender identities
Dude Deluxe, thank you for the follow.
are not doctors. They're not scientists. They are self-serving activists.
Hi, I'm a queer teacher.
Okay, we're not going to go forward because we already got that one. So somebody has a PhD, and the knowledge that they gained through their PhD program caused them to be an activist. Does that suddenly invalidate everything that they learned? Everything that they had? No, it doesn't. Because the reality is, they still have that education, and they're still going to be informed. But again, this is a thought-terminating cliche. By labeling these people as just activists, by labeling people as just that, you get to then dismiss anything they say, any education they might have. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they have to say. You got to put them in the box of activist, and now anything they say is tainted. This is called the poisoning the well fallacy. This is a thing that I'm scared I'm going to end up doing anytime that I have a preamble to who I'm going to be covering. I'm worried I'm going to poison the well. Gothix, on the other hand, seems to do it all the time. But that is just my position. Can't we just use their one joke back at them? They're not activists. They're trans professionals. Well, we could. I mean, we could just also just deliberately misgender Gothix all the time. Because I'm going to make a hot take real quick. Anybody that disagrees with the usage of the exact same tactic that is used against trans people, so that people who are cis and being abusive can understand the issues that come with that when they are never referred to by their chosen name, when they're never referred to by the gender they actually identify as, when they have to navigate the world when nobody's actually calling them who they are. Stop pretending you're pure. Nobody cares. I think that using the strategy, personally, when someone, let's say that you're a trans dude and they are constantly calling you a girl over and over again, I think referring to that person, if they're a cis guy, as a girl as well, and equally inconveniencing them is fine. And guess what? If you want to hold the position, oh no, we can't do that. We would be sinking to their level. No, you're not. Are they the ones suffering from dysphoria? The weapon's a lot less effective against them in general. You're not causing anywhere near the same amount of damage. So, why is it an invalid tactic? Outside of the fact that it makes you uncomfortable when it's used against you. But that's just my take. And I know there are people who have had disagreements about it, because I've had those conversations. Just don't misgender Blair White. I don't have to. Her comrades do it already. But anyways, as always, everybody, thank you all for the views. Insert end of video tagline here.